Welcome to episode 14 of the Views from 314 Feet podcast. My name is Randy Wilkins. And as always, I'm joined by Yankees beat reporter from The Athletic, Chris Kirshner. Chris, how are you?
Doing well. Early in the morning here in Anaheim. It's a big change going from San Diego to Anaheim, one of the best ballparks. My current number one. I haven't been to San Francisco or Pittsburgh, and then Angel Stadium, which I think is one of the bottom parks that I've been to. There's just nothing appealing about Angel Stadium.
Yeah, there's nothing. Anaheim in general is not like a great place to be unless you want to go to Disneyland. So,
right.
Big step down from San Diego, Anaheim in general. If you've never been there, unless you want to go to Disneyland, you can just avoid it altogether.
Yeah,
I think
it's a skip.
Yeah, it's definitely a skip. So what do you think of Petco?
Amazing. Beautiful aesthetically. The amount of food options they have is remarkable. The amount of, like, if you're drinking, obviously I'm not drinking because I'm working, but if you're drinking beer, they have a ton of options. And just like walking around, the vibes are really cool. They have that square in the back, right outside of center field. It's like a mini park, but it's inside the stadium. There was like a concert going on right beforehand. It's a good fan base. They're passionate. I mean, there's really nothing to complain about when it comes to Petco. It's, in my opinion, a perfect ballpark. There's nothing bad about it. Even like the area outside of the stadium, there's a ton of bars, restaurants. It's just a really, really good vibe inside the stadium and just outside of the stadium. It's really nice. Definitely happy I checked that one off.
Yeah, Petco is the only stadium in California I haven't been to. I think Dodger Stadium, and I don't know if it's still called Oracle, or I'm sorry, not Oracle. What's it called in San Francisco now? I know the name keeps changing.
Oh yes, yeah, Oracle.
Yes, or okay.
I thought you were talking about Oakland.
No. I've actually been to the Oracle Arena before the Warriors left, and that was an incredible experience. But Oracle in San Francisco and Dodger Stadium, I think, are my two favorite stadiums. And
yeah, Dodger Stadium is awesome.
Dodger Stadium is amazing. I mean, if you haven't been there, I highly recommend going there. It's beautiful. I love the old school feel of it. It still maintains that. It has top 3 views, like backgrounds, in my opinion, in all of Major League Baseball. If you do go there, do not sit on the first base side because you will get baked in the sun. You want to be on the third base side. That's just like a little tip for anybody that ever wants to go there. Do not get seats on the first base side unless you just want to like get cooked for 2 hours until the sun goes down. And then Oracle is amazing. It's amazing. Like, perfect location. Just, I don't know the main street, but it's like near downtown, or I guess like on the downtown limit, right by the water, obviously. Beautiful stadium. Like, I can't, I'm sorry you're not going to be there, but I'm sure you'll get there at some point. It's just,
yeah.
The only thing there is the weather. The weather is like super unpredictable, like the city, like, you know, generally how the city's weather goes or that area. But yeah, Dodger Stadium and Oracle are amazing, and hopefully I get to Petco at some point. That's the one place I haven't been to in California. So
yeah, that's really, really big fan of Petco. Sad to be leaving this trip after Anaheim. But yeah, that's one of the parks I haven't gotten to. San Francisco. I have 7 more to go now. San Francisco, Pittsburgh, Cincinnati, Miami, Nationals, Phillies, Tigers, and I haven't been to the Blue Jays yet.
okay.
I've been on the beat for 2 years now. Every time that trip comes up, I'm just not on it for some reason. But I am going to Toronto at the end of next month, so I'll get to cross that one off.
Yeah, and then you'll see all the new renovations too, so that's cool.
Yep.
Miami is cool. It's just in a weird area. It's like
Yeah. I
kind of
mean,
like in a
I've been down there. It makes no sense where that stadium is.
yeah. It's very confusing. I don't. When I went there, I was like, why is it here? I don't really
Yeah.
get the. I don't understand the thinking behind this one, but
Yeah. It makes no
no,
sense.
no, it doesn't. But it's once you're in there, it's not bad. Um, that obviously the roof is always closed, so that kind of like brings it down a little bit. But it's also like 9 million degrees and like 2,000% humidity, so I get it.
Hmm.
Yeah, it's not bad there. Um, it's not time for it now, but I have a funny story about when I went there because that was when we were doing the captain, and I went down when Derek was still CEO of the Marlins, and I met Floyd Mayweather there.
Oh,
He was
wow.
like in his box, but I'll tell a story another time. But didn't even know it was Floyd Mayweather until like 5 minutes into the conversation because he had like this crazy beard.
That's
Um,
funny.
yeah, so good times down in Miami at Marlins Park, whatever that place is called. I don't know the Lone Depot.
Lone
Uh,
Depot.
I don't know half the names of these stadiums now because they keep changing.
Hmm.
So, all right. Let's get to the podcast. Let's talk about the Yankees. Everybody knows about Yankee Stadium. We've been there a bunch of times, so we don't have to talk about that one. Um, but speaking of Yankee Stadium and gates and tickets and money, the big story that came out last week focuses on Hal Steinbrenner and his comments about the payroll and where the payroll might be heading going into next year. Um, and I believe he was at the owners' meetings, right,
Hmm.
in New York,
Yep. Yep.
and obviously had a session with the media, answer some questions. And Chris, I know you have the quote in front of you, so can you please read that just to remind everybody of Hal's exact words during that media session?
Yeah. I thought it was going to be a formal media session, but uh, thankfully I live like right around the corner from MLB's offices, so I was there. But he said, "Look, I'm going to be honest. Payrolls at levels we're at right now are simply not sustainable for us financially. They wouldn't be sustainable for the vast majority of owners, given the luxury tax we have to pay. We have a considerable amount of money coming off. We didn't have a whole lot of money coming off last season, which is why we're at where we're at." And he also reiterated, he said, what I always say to you guys, like a broken record, I don't believe I should have to have a $300 million payroll to win a championship.
Okay, so before we actually get into what he said, since you were there, is there any context that you can provide that led to this quote? Like, was this a question regarding Juan Soto? Was it a general question about payroll and the future of their payroll? How did we get to the point where he gave a quote like that in an informal media session?
Yeah, it wasn't a quote about Soto. Like he had obviously spoken about Soto before. It was actually one of the final questions that we asked Hal, and it was just a basic comment about payrolls and having the ability to basically spend whatever they wanted to in free agency. And that's when he said, look, I tell you guys all the time, I don't think I need a $300 million payroll. And then he continued on and said, the level that the Yankees are at financially is unsustainable. So it wasn't a specific comment about Soto. Earlier in the conversation, actually with Hal, he reiterated that he wants to sign Soto. Like that's priority number one. They're not making that a secret. Like they want Soto next offseason. Now, if they do re-sign Soto and he gets $40+ million a year, then difficult decisions are going to have to be made about the roster around Soto, Aaron Judge, Garrett Cole, Giancarlo Stanton, because those guys are big money makers. So on Friday, I did a story in the Athletic about just like hypothetically looking at the payroll situation. Let's say Soto makes $41 million a year. That's $1 million more than what Judge is making, and it's also important to note that because Soto's agent is Scott Boras, he is going to be pushing for a contract that, one, is more money than Aaron Judge, which is his right. His client is going to be 26 years old next season, and you rarely see a player at Soto's age go into free agency, especially one that is as good as Soto. So it's not out of the realm of possibility that Soto ends up getting a contract that's worth more per year than Judge. And also, I had asked Hal in February, if it got to that point where someone else is making more money than your captain, the Yankees have shown like they are protective of that, because a few months ago they had the same situation with Yoshinobu Yamamoto. The contract got to a number that was $1 million more than Garrett Cole, and the Yankees were like, that's too much money. We're not paying someone more money than Garrett Cole, especially one who hasn't pitched in the majors before. So they bowed out. With Soto, it seems like they're fine going over that number if it got more money, if he got more money than Aaron Judge. I can understand it because, one, Soto has proven over the past 6 years now that he's good. He can hit major league pitching, and there's no doubt about his ability to perform in the regular season, in the postseason. He's a champion. His Nationals beat the Astros, the team that the Yankees haven't gotten past in the past decade now. So there's no secret that the Yankees are trying to re-sign Soto, and that's their priority. But the thing is that's going to come with cuts elsewhere, most likely. They're not going to be able to re-sign all these guys that are free agents, namely Gleyber Torres. He is making almost $15 million this year in arbitration. That's a lot of money that's coming off the books that, Hal was referencing. Alex Verdugo, he's making $8.7 million this year. He is a free agent. Clay Holmes is a free agent at $6 million. Tommy Kahnle, 5.75. Jonathan Loaizaga, 2.5. Caleb Ferguson, 2.4. That's almost $40 million in free agents that are coming off. The Yankees could also shed money even further with Anthony Rizzo. Rizzo is owed $6 million in a buyout if the Yankees decided. They have a club option at $17 million. The thing with Rizzo, Verdugo, and Torres is the Yankees have internal options that they can replace those guys with, whether they're in the minors or currently on the roster. For example, with Rizzo, the Yankees could easily slide DJ Lemahieu over to first base, and then they can decide if they want to trade for a third baseman. In that story I wrote on Friday, the Rockies and Ryan McCann makes a lot of sense. He's under contract.
Ryan
McMahon, 6 years, $70 million. It's a very reasonable contract for someone who has performed very well, even away from Coors Field. It's something that like the Yankees should consider if the Rockies decide to part ways with McMahon. McMahon, right?
McMahon, yeah.
Yeah, McMahon. One, the Rockies are a weird franchise and they make stupid decisions all the time. So it's definitely worth inquiring about, especially at this trade deadline. You just never know what the Rockies are going to do. They're one of the worst run franchises, so you have to check in with them. And then with the Pirates, Ke'Bryan Hayes, he's underperforming this year. The Pirates, they have some good young pitching. I don't know what their plans are. That's another team. You just never know what they're going to do because they love shedding payroll and they love getting younger. So that's someone who I would keep an eye on if the Yankees had interest there. So like there are options around the league, and internally you have obviously Oswaldo Cabrera, John Birdie, who is going to be out for probably a couple months. He can play third base as well. So you have options there with Gleyber Torres. Oswald Peraza is an option. Caleb Durbin, who several people inside the organization are very high on. He's a 5'6" utility infielder. He can also play outfield. He's hitting over 300 in AAA right now. Steals bases, high contact guy. And Yorbi Vivas, who had a good spring training for the Yankees. He got hit in the face on a foul ball in spring. It kind of set him back this season. So he's another option internally. And then Verdugo, the obvious candidate to replace him is Jason Dominguez. And we've talked about him ad nauseum in the past few episodes. So there are guys that those guys can be replaced. And then Clay Holmes is one who I find interesting because the Yankees don't really have anyone internally who can take over for Clay. And having a good closer is very, very important. We're seeing that across the sport. I'm looking at the Cleveland Guardians, namely. Emmanuel Clase, I think he had a down season last season. He has been unbelievable this year, and it's powered the Guardians to being nearly 20 games over 500 and one of the best teams in baseball. And their bullpen is the reason why. And Clase is the number one reason why that bullpen has been incredible. So if the Yankees are going to re-sign Soto, there's going to be very, very difficult decisions that are going to have to be made, especially if we take Steinbrenner at his word, and with him saying that they can't have a $300 million payroll every single year. If that's the case, they're going to have to shed money somewhere, and some difficult decisions are going to have to be made.
So I have a couple of thoughts on this. One, I said on a previous episode, I fully expect this to be like a Garrett Cole offseason where it's Juan Soto and that's about it. I think the only exception here would be Clay Holmes. I think the Yankees need Clay Holmes, not as much as Soto, but from a worldview of how you are going to build your roster, they absolutely need Clay Holmes. I'll keep saying this, I don't think their bullpen is as good as the numbers suggest. We saw that again in San Diego. So to lose your most dominant pitcher out of the pen because you're concerned about the luxury tax is unacceptable to me. That can't happen. Like, if you're going to make tough choices, fine, so be it. But Clay Holmes has to be a part of that group of players that you retain in the offseason. I mean, I think it can't be 1-to-1 or apples to apples with the Garrett Cole offseason. I think you need Soto and Holmes. Now, I've obviously been supportive of Glaber. I think Glaber's a really good player. He's not showing it this year. I'm not blind. He's playing much better recently compared to how we started off the season. I have no expectations that Glaber will be back. I don't think he's coming back. I would be surprised if Rizzo was back. I don't think Verdugo is coming back. But beyond that, I have two issues here. One, I have the issue with just Hal saying it's not sustainable financially. Like, that's bullshit. I'm sorry. Like, I don't really know any other way to say it. Like, they can handle the payroll and the luxury tax payment. I know, like, it's 1-to-1 or whatever the Steve Cohen tax apron is and what's required of that. They can absolutely pay that and go on about their business and win a lot of games. Like, I will always have a problem with Hal treating the Yankees like they're the mid-tier or lower-tier revenue generating franchises, not just in the league, but in sports. Like, I can't deal with it. It bothers me because I don't feel like it's totally honest. And I'm not in any way calling Hal Steinbrenner a liar. Like, I don't want that to come across that way. I just don't think that is the case. And I know that he knows that's not the case, but he's just, relying on the general sentiment of Major League Baseball owners. And it's the same talking points from every owner. Like, none of this is sustainable. You're all billionaires, but somehow none of you can sustain these payrolls regardless of what level you're at, Whether you receive money, you know, in the payments, you can't sustain anything. Whether you're the one paying to the other team, somehow you can't sustain it. Like nobody can sustain anything, but somehow like everybody's functioning and nobody's like run their team into the ground magically. So like that bothers me. I'll never be on board for that kind of rhetoric, and I think it's rhetoric, and I think it's all talking point nonsense. The other thing is on the baseball side, I'm not totally comfortable with giving so many spots to so many young guys for a team that has Juan Soto, Aaron Judge, Garrett Cole, and however many other good vet players that you have. That is a huge risk. And it's a risk that they're taking on voluntarily. Now, I'm not saying bring Glaber back at some like crazy number. I'm not going to make a case right now for who should or should not stay outside of Soto and Holmes. Soto and Holmes are the obvious ones to me. But I do think turning it over to a bunch of young guys who either the Yankees haven't demonstrated they have faith in on a major league level in a Peraza. We've never seen Durbin. We've never seen Ben Rice. We've seen Jason Dominguez for 8 games, and he's coming off a major injury. And I know he's hitting well in Double-A, but we already know that he mastered Double-A. So, like, that doesn't tell me anything. I just don't know how you can balance all the big ticket items with a bunch of young guys. And also, just even for the fan base and how they react to young guys. Look at what a lot of the fans did with Volpe last year. You know, he went 2020, won a Gold Glove, and people were like, oh, he stinks. And it's like, he still had a decent season for a rookie that was on a bad team. Like, what if Caleb Durbin doesn't hit well at the beginning and he's 5'6" and he doesn't have like pop like that? Like, what do you think people are going to say? You know, like Ben Rice. Okay, if he doesn't hit a bunch of home runs right at the beginning, people are going to say he's a bust. Why is he here? Send him down. He's terrible. Like, why did you promote this guy? The Yankees development sucks. It's like the same old like responses. So even if they don't bring a lot of their own guys back, I think your suggestion of bringing in a third baseman is a well taken point. And I think that they have to look in other areas to see where they can bring in other people as well. I can't see how in 2024 you go for a team that is a legitimate title contender, and then the very next year you're like, you know what, we're just gonna have like a soft rebuild at like half the positions on the field. Like that, I don't understand. You might not have a closer. So I don't really know how that works. Like I think it needs to be a little bit more than just relying on the internal options. I feel like Jason's the slam dunk replacement. Like I think that that's going to happen as long as he's healthy. But everywhere else, I think I hope that they're a little bit more diverse in their thinking and approach than just say we're just going to call up all these guys and wish them luck and then see what happens when there's a chance that you might be the 2024 World Series champion. You know, so obviously we're kind of getting ahead of ourselves, but Hal brought it up, so we're talking about it. You know, there are a lot of variables in play that have yet to really reveal or settle themselves. But speaking today on May 28th, it's a big risk to just say, I'm just going to throw these bunch of young guys out there and see what happens. And I also don't see where there's room for them to come up now. Like Peraza's not going to play. Durbin's not going to play. I know people are calling for Ben Rice, and like we can get into this in a little bit, but I don't think they're going to sit Rizzo for Ben Rice. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. It's just a very hard like balance to strike if you're going to intentionally not invest money payroll wise that you were doing this year.
Well, Hal is preparing you because he did talk about the player development system. He said, I believe I need a good mix of veterans who are going to have a lot more money, but also we put a lot of money into our player development system in the last 5 to 10 years. In my opinion, we have one of the better ones in baseball now. You can see the young players we're producing. As they're ready, they're going to get their chances, just like Volpe did, Austin Wells, Heel, and others. I do believe being younger makes you faster. I also believe, whether I'm right or not, it makes you less injury prone. We finally have a really good player development system with a lot of guys still coming. They're going to get opportunities. So he's already preparing fans that, don't be surprised if there's going to be a few young players on the roster next season. Again, whether it's right or not, as you said, they could win the World Series and that may change things. Who knows? But he is already dropping seeds that, there may be several young players in the lineup next season, surrounded by Soto if they sign him, and Judge and Garrett Cole in the rotation. So I would just say, just don't be surprised if that happens. Whether or not it does is one thing, but the fact that he's already outwardly saying this, in the fashion that he did a few weeks, was it like a week and a half ago now that we talked to him? Forget when. But the fact that he is saying this, I think you should be taking him at face value, because he's not just saying this to say it. He is saying this because he is thinking about this right now. He is thinking that, like, okay, like we want to re-sign Soto. That means we're not going to have a $350 million payroll. We have to cut in some areas. We have a really good player development system. They're currently ranked in the top 10 across whatever minor league publication you want to look at, including the Athletics. So he is dropping hints that the roster may look different next year, but we also may have Soto for the rest of his career, which, right. It's at least it's encouraging that, they are very adamant, obviously, about signing Soto, but they also need to fill out the roster too and not get worse while doing that. It's a hard balance to strike, just because of how the Yankees are structured financially right now. They have Stanton for $32 million. Carlos Rodon's making $28 million. Stroman's making 18 and a half. Like, there's a lot of big ticket items on this roster. Like, I broke it down in that story. Like, I said, if Soto makes 41 million, it could be more. If he makes $41 million per year and they have him on the roster, and let's say they buy out Anthony Rizzo at $6 million, that's already $226 million committed to the payroll next year, and they haven't filled out. That's like 8 players, so it's going to be tough. I'm not saying like it's not doable, because obviously the Yankees have the money. They are the highest revenue making team in baseball. I also had this conversation with someone the other day. He made the point that, like, just because the Yankees are worth $7+ billion, that doesn't mean that the Yankees have $7+ billion on hand in cash. It's different. Right. Like, but sometimes fans think like, oh, like, well, they're worth $7 billion, so they should just, be able to spend whatever. It's different, like having cash on hand. I'm not saying they're broke. They have money. Like, let's be clear about that. They make the most amount of money in baseball. Whether or not, I don't know the books. They're never going to open the books. Right, I don't know how much cash they have on hand. I don't know what they're spending. I mean, obviously, I know what they're spending on payroll. I don't know what they're spending on the stadium, paying stadium workers. I don't know any of that. They're never going to tell us. They don't have to. They're not a public company. So it's difficult to know exactly how much they should be spending on payroll in comparison to the amount of money they're making, because I don't know those numbers, and we probably never will.
Right. Yeah. I mean, my case isn't based on like their valuation. That's based on if like they wanted to sell the team. Like, that's 2 completely different things. They don't have $7 billion like lying around somewhere.
But some fans might think that, because like, that's the number that's always thrown out. Like, the Yankees are worth $7 billion, so they should just, have a payroll that's $600 million. Like, right. It doesn't work like that.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I just think to say that it's not sustainable financially is just, I don't buy it. I mean, like, that is just the phrasing and how it's presented. It just sounds like MLB owner talking point. because they all say it's unsustainable, regardless of like where they are revenue or payroll wise. Somehow, all 30 teams, it's unsustainable. Like you hear it from all of them. So I know that he's in alignment with his boys, basically, and like not trying to break the system that they're trying to build over the years. And he's one of the prominent owners of the premier franchise. And if he were to step outside of that, there would be a problem. Like it just feels like that's all that talk is. And I think it's pretty obvious that that's what it means. So it's bothersome because it impacts like the team itself, And again, I'm not calling for like a $600 million payroll, but you're putting yourself in these difficult decisions because you're considering the system more than like the competition, in my opinion. And I think that's where the business side kind of rots the game on the professional side. And then the thing about like his quote about development, he told me that he believed Oswald Peraza was going to be an all-star along with Volpe. And somebody in the organization does not agree because Peraza never got a real shot. So Hal's feeling on the players is cool and all, but apparently he doesn't have the last say because I don't remember the last time I saw Oswald Peraza get consistent at bats while healthy. You know what I mean? Somebody there is just like, I don't think this is working. You know what I mean? Like, even
I think we talked about that in a couple episodes ago.
Yeah.
Like the words not matching the actions.
Yeah, not at all. So it's like, I think they showed it with some guys, but some guys I don't really know how they feel about. I mean, you would know better because you're talking to people. But even then, like, I don't really know how they feel about Caleb Durbin or Ben Rice or Ramirez.
I know with those two guys specifically, they're really high on them.
Mhm.
And that's not just like Yankee type, like
They're high on them.
Just like, hey, I'm doing a story on minor league prospects. Tell me who's like really good. It's not even like that. It's just like, just who do you like? And like those two guys are always two of the ones that come up. And like, it's not a story. It's not hey, I'm working on this. Can we talk about like 5 prospects? It's like not that. It's just in conversation about like who are some of the guys to like watch out for. And those two guys specifically are ones they mention. When it comes to Peraza, again, they've been saying for going back to 22 now when Peraza came up, how, they love him, yet he's not given the opportunity, which means they can say they love him all they want. But if you really love the guy, you're going to find a way to play him, and they don't. So like, I think with Peraza, there's just like it doesn't seem like there's a spot for him moving forward. I wouldn't be surprised if they eventually traded him in some package. I'm just hypothetically speaking here. Like I'm not saying he's getting traded, but I can see it happening just with how they've been using him, how they talk about him, but it doesn't match up the actions.
Right. All right. Well, that was a good talk on Hal's comments. Thanks to Hal for stirring the pot a little bit. We're going to go to this break. When we come back, we'll talk about the return of DJ Lemahieu, focus on the current roster for the 2024 Yankees and how that will impact in the short term for the Yankees. So we'll be back right after this break. And we're back. It's Randy, it's Chris, it's the Views from 314 Feet podcast. And as we come out of break, we have some breaking news, actually, courtesy of Talking Yanks, the guys over there. John Boy and Jake, they obviously have Aaron Boone on for his weekly segment, and they dropped some lineup news that includes one DJ Lemahieu. Chris, can you read it off for us?
Yeah, Boone says this is the lineup tonight. Anthony Volpe at short, Juan Soto in right, Aaron Judge center field, Verdugo left field, Giancarlo Stanton DH, Anthony Rizzo first base, Gleyber Torres second, Austin Wells catching, batting 8th, and DJ Lemahieu making his season debut tonight at third base, batting 9th.
So you wrote a story today, Tuesday, for The Athletic, and might have to call you Chris Tradamus or something, because it's the same predicted lineup that you had. So what went into your thinking in building that lineup out?
My thinking was the top 5 was already locked in with Volpe, Soto, Judge, Verdugo, Stanton. Boone has talked to us on several occasions about how he likes that top 5, how he likes Verdugo hitting cleanup because he's sandwiched in between Judge and Stanton, who are 2 power hitters, and it's a change of pace for pitchers because then you go from a power hitter and Judge to someone who doesn't strike out in Verdugo, and the pitchers have to work to get him out, and you have to get Verdugo out because with the way Stanton has been hitting, it's just another threat. And then when you're factoring where DJ should hit in the order, really there's only from 6 onward that he can hit. I didn't think Austin Wells was going to hit 9th because the 9th hitter rolls over to the top of the order. And I know that the Yankees really like DJ leading off. If you want to look at the 9th hitter as a second leadoff hitter, you can, it's another high on base guy. Theoretically, when DJ is at his best, he is getting on base a lot. And if he's right in front of Volpe, who's also been getting on base a lot, then you have 2 high on base guys right before Judge and Soto. Soto and Judge in that order. So that's, in my opinion, that's 4 hitters who can get on base a lot. And you're stacking them all together. It makes sense. I didn't think Wells was going to be the 9th hitter. And then Rizzo and Torres, he's been hitting the ball much better lately. He's still not performing that well, but he's been better. And then Rizzo has been struggling a bit. But when you factor in everything that the Yankees have said, going back to them trading for Verdugo, trading for Soto, they have said all offseason for the past several months how important lineup balance is. And this is an opportunity to have the perfect lineup balance. Volpe is right-handed. Soto is left-handed. Judge is right-handed. Verdugo is left-handed. Stanton, right. Rizzo, left. Torres, right. Wells, left. DJ, right. So they in their perfect fantasy world, they have a lineup that has right-left alternating throughout the lineup. And I believe this is going to be the first time that they have done that this year. I may be wrong on that, but lineup diversity with handedness is very important to them this year. And this is just a way to do right-left alternating. I'm not saying it's the right thing to do. I personally don't care about lineup diversity that much. If you have 9 hitters who are all Aaron Judge and they're all hitting righty, I would rather that than have alternating right-left. I don't care about lanes for bullpen guys. If you have a good hitter, I don't care which way he bats. I may be wrong in my thinking, but that's just how I look at lineup construction. It's okay, would I rather have 9 Juan Sotos who are all left-handed, or I want to sprinkle in Austin Wells or DJ LeMahieu to have some lineup diversity? And I don't know. It's, if you have 9 Juan Sotos, I think you're going to win a lot of games. That's how I look at lineup construction.
Yeah, I actually disagree. I mean, yeah, if you had 9 Juan Sotos or 9 Aaron Judges, you're probably going to win the World Series. I mean, I was, you know what I mean?
But I'm saying it's if you're a good hitter, I don't care which way you bat. You're good. If you're good, you're good.
No, I get it, but My pushback is we've seen really good Yankees lineups that didn't have lineup balance or diversity, and they lost in the playoffs
Yeah,
because
I mean, that's fair.
the part of the reason they lost was because of the lanes and because the other pitchers. I mean that to me, like teams built their teams to beat and attack the Yankees lineups, and they made it easy for the teams to do that. And we saw it in like multiple years, like the Rays calling card in those matchups over the last couple years, the playoff series, the regular season matchups was basically dominated by them being able to just continuously throw hard throwing righties for innings on end, and the Yankees couldn't hit them even with good hitters. The Astros could do the same thing. When the Yankees had any success against the Astros, to me it was like when they had outside of like Judge, because Judge is Judge, so he could be put to the side. But like the moments when they had chances to beat the Astros, it really came because the lineup diversity was impacting things. Like I can remember Aaron Hicks's home run against Verlander, Didi, like I don't know, somebody blew on the ball that he hit off of Garrett Cole in 2019. Like how that ball did not get out off of Cole, like will still like drive me nuts to this day. I mean, I think there's like plenty of examples where you can have a good lineup and the pitching is so good now and so dominant that you have to like figure out some kind of strategic way to mitigate it. I'm not I don't sometimes it's talent, which I would agree with you there. Like if you have better hitters, you have a better chance. But I also think the pitching is so good now, and there's so many of those guys that the elite teams or the top end teams have that you really have to like devise strategies to put your teams in positions to take advantage of whatever slight advantage you can create for yourself. And I felt this way for years. Like I've been saying pre-pandemic, the Yankees had a lefty hitter problem, and everybody would say to me, "Well, the righties can hit the opposite way, so it's fine." And it's like that's not the point here. The point is you're giving the other team a strategic advantage that they can easily take advantage of, and it limits what the Yankees can do. So I think in a vacuum, I agree with you because talent on talent, you can believe in your talent and just say go out there and compete. But I'm not going to put Gleyber Torres or Alex Verdugo in the same class as Aaron Judge and Juan Soto. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not going to put Austin Wells in the Jorge Posada category, at least not yet. You know what I mean? It's not like you have any team has the opportunity to throw those guys out. Even the Dodgers, they can't do that. Like, you get to a certain point in their lineup, and it's like, okay, we're going to eat on these guys now because we got past like the top 4, top 5. So I don't know. It's just I think if you can just create advantages for yourself the way that pitching is now, you have to like do that. I think it would be malpractice to not do that. And it doesn't have to be perfect. Like right now, it's like left, right, right, left, right, left. It doesn't have to be that every day. But I do think it matters just because the pitching is so good now that you can't help them. You know what I mean? Like you look at Seattle's pitching staff. Now I think that team is terrible. I think they have really good pitching, but like I don't think they're good at all, especially after those 4 games. I mean, in general, their pitching is keeping them average, but their pitching's good. I mean, Wu is really good. A couple other guys they had that pitched pretty well, but I think that they could navigate like outside of Wu. I think he was really good. I think he just had a good night, to his credit. But I think you can attack those pitching stats with like elite pitching a little bit easier as opposed to if it was just like the 2022 or 2021 Yankees, where it's just like righty, 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 righty. Maybe like you sprinkle in Gallo and Rizzo, and that's it. It's a little bit harder to navigate. And also,
Yeah,
I
it
like
definitely
that.
is.
I also like that not just the handedness, but there's a diversity in how those guys hit. Like you mentioned, Verdugo.
Yeah.
Like they have more contact guys. They don't strike out nearly as much, which also helps. I don't think that's all related to lineup balance. I think the hitters are better. obviously you add Soto, you add Verdugo, you add guys that have like good eyes. Volpe's improved. So I don't think it's all like attributed to handedness, but I also think that diversity lies in the skill sets, which also helps, which I think obviously is something they were very aware of, which helps. So I just think you need to create it so you're not like giving the other team more of an advantage than they already have if they have good pitching.
Yeah, I mean those are all good points. It's certainly like when you talk about the playoffs, like these teams just have guys who come in, righties and lefties who are throwing 100, and then you're screwed sometimes if you have four righties in a row in your lineup, and the guy coming in, like righties just can't hit him, and then that's it. The inning's over because you have four righties coming up, and this guy has a 100 batting average against, and
Right.
you're screwed. So I totally get it in that regard. My point is just like if you're a good hitter, you're a good hitter, and I would choose the good hitter over lineup balance.
No, I
That's
get
the
it.
point I think.
Yeah.
I'm not saying like you're right or I'm right or we're both wrong. That's just like the way that I would look at it if I was a manager.
Right. No, I get it. I mean, yeah, I mean, obviously you want the talent to be able to match or be better than the talent you're facing. So yeah,
Right.
I mean, I totally agree. It's just the pitching is so good, and it's like it just feels like every guy now. I mean, I know that a lot of people mention this, but it's true. There's so many guys on a good team, a bad team. They're just throwing some like monster out there, and then they take him out, and then there's another monster that comes out, and you're like, where are all these guys coming from? Like, how do all these teams have these guys? It's crazy. So, so beyond the lineup, now that DJ is back, how do you think in the short term this impacts the roster and playing time? And, do you think that it's going to change a lot about who's going to see the field as much as they have prior to DJ being around? Or do you think that, that'll kind of just work itself out?
Well, I saw some people were like complaining that DJ was coming back because Oswaldo's been really good. It's just it's another example of like how important a good start is and how much time that buys you with some fans because Oswaldo hasn't been good since like the third week of the season. Now for the first 2 weeks of the season, he was like on Juan Soto's level. And obviously that wasn't going to continue, but I think a lot of fans are like still thinking like, oh yeah, like Oswaldo was really good for the first 2 weeks. And why is DJ coming in taking his spot? Like that doesn't make any sense to me. But Oswaldo just hasn't been good for several weeks now. Like even in his season long numbers aren't very encouraging. He has a 85 WRC and he has a sub 700 OPS. And he has made some nice plays defensively, but he's also made a lot of shaky ones. So it makes sense. Like Oswaldo did his job. He did it fine. DJ theoretically is the better player, and he should be playing over Cabrera. I think in that regard, it's a very simple decision to make. Now there's still going to be playing time for Oswaldo to have because DJ can play first base. Rizzo has not been that good this season. He had that stretch. He had that like week and a half stretch starting in Milwaukee where like he was hitting the ball really well. It just hasn't continued for Rizzo. I think he might need a day off here and there. And if that happens, you slide DJ over to first base, no problem. Oswaldo can play third base. We talked about John Birdie in the first segment. Birdie's going to be out for a while. So there's still going to be playing time for Oswaldo. Glaber needs a day off while you can put Oswaldo there. Verdugo needs a day off. Oswaldo can play there. So he's going to still get playing time. It's just not going to be every single day that he's been having, which I think for the Yankees, it's probably a good thing because it just gets their better players on the field more often. I think DJ is better than Oswaldo. I don't think I'm saying anything crazy, but
No, you're not. You're not.
just if I'm reading Twitter, it's like some people will call me crazy for that. It's just like I don't get it. DJ is better than Oswaldo, at least on paper. Again, we'll see if like he can hit the way he did in the second half last year, or if it's the first half DJ from last year. I'd probably say Oswaldo makes sense, but we'll see. Again, a lot of the times all this stuff works out. Someone will get hurt. We are talking about the Yankees. We haven't been talking about injuries much this season. It just feels like it's always lurking. So something will happen in the future where all this will be sorted out.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think it's bad to have more depth, and I think Oswaldo is actually in the role that he should have on this team, which is utility guy off the bench that can spell guys.
Yes.
I was really excited that he got off to a great start, but I think he just got exposed. Like I don't think he's an everyday player on the major league level.
No, which is fine. Like
Yeah, which is fine.
again, we were talking about Oswaldo during our break, but this is a guy who rose through the organization, didn't have any hype surrounding him, but he busted his ass and became a major league player. Like that is a success story, not only for Oswaldo, but the organization itself.
Mm-hmm.
He was signed for, I believe, right over six figures. Like he was a cheap international free agent signing. Like this is a success story, no matter what Oswaldo's playing time looks like. He wasn't a Volpe. He wasn't a first round pick. He wasn't a Spencer Jones. He wasn't Dominguez, who they gave almost $5 million to. Like this is a guy who like wasn't supposed to be here, and the odds were stacked against him. It's the same thing with Luis Gil. Gil was signed for $90,000 by the Twins. He wasn't supposed to be this good. You know how hard it is to get to the majors? So just the fact that he's here and he's been playing like reasonably well to expectations is a huge success for Oswaldo in the organization.
Yeah, and the way that things are set up now, you need good bench players. I mean, that's true over like generations, but I think the way things are set up now, especially just with roster construction and X, Y, and Z, and you need versatility to help you maximize bench spots. Oswaldo is a Major League Baseball player that can contribute, and that's all that you need from him. He doesn't need to be a starter. And like you said, I think he's going to get plenty of playing time. I also think this helps Rizzo. And I've been concerned with Rizzo from the start. I know he had that stretch, like you mentioned, where he was hitting well, he was fielding well, but he's also in his mid-30s, and it feels like he's pretty much played every game. I know that that's not true. I know that Oswaldo played a game there. Somebody else might have played a game there over the course of the season so far. But he's played a lot, and this has nothing to do with the concussion or lingering effects. I think he's just a mid-30s player that's been on his feet a lot with a back injury history that probably just needs a couple of days off here and there to recharge himself. I mean, it's a compliment to him and a good thing for the Yankees that he's been able to play pretty much every day. But I think it also helps him to just like get a break every once in a while, just physically, just take a day, catch your breath, recharge a little bit, and then go from there. So I think DJ coming back helps in a lot of ways. I don't really know what to expect from DJ, if I'm totally honest, offensively. I think
Same.
I think it's a total toss-up offensively. I think defensively, he's going to be great like he always is. I don't have any concerns there. He's definitely an upgrade over Cabrera at third base. So their defense is improved, which is always a good thing, obviously. No idea what to expect offensively. And I think even with the conversation we had about lineup balance and diversity and the pros and cons, ninth is probably the right spot for him right now.
Yeah, I mean, it's not there's no pressure hitting ninth. You get the fewest plate appearances possible. Again, like he's had two major foot injuries now in the past couple of years. The first foot injury, he wasn't even on the postseason roster in 22 because of how bad he was
right.
offensively, and he was pushing through it. I'm not saying like he just like lost his talent. Like he was obviously injured, and DJ is just one of those guys who, if he's injured, he ain't saying a damn word, and he's
Right.
going to try and push through, which does impact the Yankees. Like he can't be trusted if he says he's fine, because he may not be fine. So who knows with what with his foot and like how it's going to respond to playing most days during the week. We don't know. We saw what happened in 22. He tried playing through a foot injury, came back, said he was fine. He obviously wasn't fine. And then even last season, I remember talking with DJ in spring training in 23, said his foot was great. He was, better than ever. And the first half of the season, like he obviously was still fighting through the foot injury that he had the previous season. So I can't tell you DJ's going to come in and be, the batting champion, DJ Lemahieu, the one that like fans were like clamoring over that they needed to resign. Like I can't tell you that he's going to be that player. So I think it's just going to be a wait and see. But again, I do think he should be better than Oswaldo, both defensively and offensively. Like if DJ is just, if DJ's just average, he's better than Oswaldo offensively. So I do think the Yankees are getting better today, and I do think that the lineup is even deeper now that DJ is back.
Oh yeah, I agree. I mean, I think the lineup is in a better place right now. I mean, I can't. Maybe Rizzo, maybe Glaber, maybe Austin Wells as perceived soft spots, but even then, I wouldn't call them soft spots, to be quite honest. I mean, they're still quality major league hitters. Wells still has to prove himself, but he's shown that even with the not great stats, I mean, we've talked about this before, he has metrics that work in his favor. So I don't think there's many soft spots. And then one thing I've noticed too is this might just be perception or bias or whatever, but when I watch these games now with the way that the offense is going, it feels like every 2 innings, Judge and Soto are up. It just feels like the lineup is working so well, or, even if they're not like getting a ton of runs at the moment, it feels like they're working counts and like still getting base runners. And then all of a sudden, like Soto and Judge are up again. And it just feels like they have 8 at bats when they're really having 4 at bats. So I don't really know where I get that feeling from. Maybe it's like a lack of attention to the entire game. Whatever it is, it just feels like the offense is doing really well in the sense of just like keeping the line moving. So when you add someone like DJ, who at the very least is going to work at bats, he's going to grind down at bats consistently. I mean, I think it just helps with the middle of the order and the big guys in the lineup to get more chances to hit.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. I don't really have anything else to add.
Cool. So we'll go to this break, and when we get out of the break, we'll go to the mailbag and answer some of your questions. So we'll be right back. And we're back. It's mailbag time. It's Randy. It's Chris. We have 3 questions, I believe, for this episode. So we'll get right into it. Andrew Tweedy. He says, before yesterday, my question was going to be what to do with DJ Volpe/Volpe in the leadoff spot. Now that that's resolved, where do you think they slot DJ? 7. It's a great problem to have that no one in the top 6 is really in much of a position for demotion now in the order, but 7 feels low if he comes back and hits. Would DJ being DJ again be enough of a reason to create some imbalance in the lineup? Maybe stack a few righties in the middle of the order just to get him up to the plate more often. Maybe a helpful framing. Would you rather have a perfectly balanced lineup or give more bats to Verdugo even over a hot LeMahieu?
I mean, again, I think with what we were just discussing, let's say DJ turns out to be DJ that we saw a few years ago, like 2020. Of course, like you would want that DJ as high in the lineup as possible. But in the meantime, like I feel like he has to prove that he is looking himself. So that's why I think batting him lower in the lineup makes sense right now. If Verdugo, gets cold, obviously he can move down. If DJ's hot, obviously he can move up. So I also think it's just a question that doesn't really matter right now. Like the Yankees have the best offense in the sport, so they can afford to have DJ work through some issues right now because it's not like last year where you kind of needed DJ to come through just because of like nobody was coming through. Whereas this year, I mean, they literally have the best offense in the sport right now. So there's a lot of margin for error when it comes to where DJ should hit in the order.
I actually like him batting ninth, whether he's hot or not. I mean, I think that if you can create a circular lineup that gets you right back to Volpe, Soto, and Judge, if it's not broke, don't fix it. You know what I mean? Like, I think Verdugo being in the 4 spot is more a result of what you were saying earlier in terms of making it a little bit more challenging for pitchers to navigate the lineup. And I think he's been good in that spot. I know somebody had asked us before about getting him out of there because he had gone cold a little bit, but I think he makes an impact. And he also gives Stanton and Rizzo and Torres a chance to have another guy on base. I like the way that it is. So I think basing lineup construction on who's hot at the time, unless the guy is like blazing hot and everybody else is cold, and the overall context is suggesting you need to get a hot hitter in a position to get more bats because everybody else isn't really contributing, then I think you can consider it. But if the guys are going the way they are right now, and then you add LeMahieu, I think him batting ninth is actually advantageous because now you have to face Volpe, Soto, Judge with at least one guy on base, and that's obviously run scoring opportunity. So, I mean, a hot DJ LeMahieu at the bottom of the order is not a bad thing.
No.
I mean, I think there aren't many teams that can boast that if that happens. So I don't really think the lineup should be moved around just to accommodate him getting more bats. The rest of the lineup is good. It's just another good hitter who actually gives you an opportunity to be even more flexible and dangerous because he's at the bottom of the order. So I think if he stays ninth and turns into like some version of Scott Brocious in 98, not to say he's going to have those like power numbers, but I think it's great. So as often happens when people are dealing with the internet, sometimes some technical difficulties pop up. So Chris is in this hotel in Anaheim and some weird things have happened. So he's gone. But now he's back. Chris is back. Good old Anaheim Wi-Fi there.
I talked shit about Anaheim in the first couple minutes, and then they heard me.
Yeah, I think your mic is off.
Let's see. There we go.
There we go. We're back. We're back again. So, yeah, I think we answered that question pretty thoroughly about LeMahieu. So we'll move on to the next one. From Sam Lindauer. Go follow Sam on Twitter. With Hal's recent statements about payroll, it seems unlikely Anthony Rizzo is back next season. Chris suggested possibly moving LeMahieu to first base while opening up third base. Is there a chance the Yankees keep DJ at third and turn to the minors to fill first base? Thinking about the hot-hitting Ben Rice and Augustine Ramirez, two bat-first catchers who appear blocked behind the dish by Wells and Trevi. What do you think?
Yes, I do think that's a possibility. We talked about Rice. He definitely has some supporters inside the organization. Ramirez too. Ramirez has been one of the best hitters in the minor leagues. I don't know if he would be an option as soon as next season. Honestly, I think Rice is probably closer to making the major league roster. So if I had to choose one of those guys, it would probably be Rice first over Ramirez. And with both those guys, they said the same thing with Austin Wells, and obviously it worked out. But there are certainly defensive questions for both Ramirez and Rice behind the plate. The thing is like if you have a player who can catch adequately while also still being a really good hitter, like that's a bonus. That's a huge bonus because like a lot of catchers only do one thing well, but if you have guys with the pop that Rice and Ramirez have, and like they're just good hitters too. Like they're not just home run guys. So like you want to see that through and see like, okay, like do we have something here behind the plate? Because that is also a huge bonus, whether it's for your own roster or as trade pieces elsewhere. But between those two, Rice would probably be the option that I would choose sooner than Ramirez.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. That makes the most sense. I don't have a strong opinion on it right now because it feels so like far away. And again, and this is nothing against Ben Rice or any of the young guys. If they were to be a part of the team next year, I fully support them and will cheer for them and hope for the best. It's just in a larger context, I just have a hard time believing that you have potentially 4, if I'm counting right, young guys, all rookies, starting for the Yankees next year. It's just hard for me to wrap my head around that right now. If it's Ben Rice as one of those guys, fine. Cool. It's just hard for me to wrap my head around that idea at the moment. You know, things change. Guys might be better. They might prove themselves. It's just I kind of feel like it. I'll believe it when I see it, I guess is the best way to put it. But for this specific question, yeah, I think Rice would be the guy before Ramirez. But we'll see what happens. Also, I mean, maybe Rizzo does come back. I don't think he is, but there's always a slight chance that they bring him back for one more year if they're not convinced that whoever the other options are could be a better option than Rizzo. You know, even
Yeah, I
though
mean
that's a
it's
hefty.
certainly possible.
Yeah, I don't think it's going to happen though. But you never know. Could happen. All right, let's get to the big question of the week from Ethan Carter. Love the show. Question: what do you find to be the most annoying part about the team's fan base? Randy as a fan and Chris a journalist covering the team. I came to this question after the fan base lost their mind about Clay Holmes over allowing his first earned run of the season. Every single fan over the age of 30 thinks it's Mariano Rivera or the guy sucks, and it annoys me to no end. Would love to know what your guys' pet peeves about the fan base are. Thank you and keep up the great pods. Thank you, Ethan from Virginia. This one is we don't want to strike a chord with anyone because we appreciate everyone listening. So we just want to put that disclaimer out there right now. We're very thankful for all of you. The Yankees are the best fans in the world. The Yankees fans are the best fans in the world. So we're putting that disclaimer out there before we answer this question. So we're just putting that out there, so people don't go crazy.
I'll let you go first.
One general pet peeve. I have a few, but like one of them, and I'm not going to rank them. This is the first one that pops in my head. Is the general impatience with every player on the team. Like, I don't know what happened from the pandemic on, and I feel like that was like a big kind of line in the sand for how people are as fans, not just online, but in general. But I'm not saying all, some have lost the concept of time in a baseball season, and every single performance is judged as if that is that player's entire season. And it's annoying to no end. Like, I think the Clay Holmes example is a great one. And it's not even just like the comparison to Mariano. It's just this confirmation bias that a lot of people that have that hasty view of sports now, they just use that to just go off and be negative. And the negativity, the general negativity for engagement is also my other huge pet peeve. And oftentimes they like work in tandem, and it's annoying. I don't see how you can be that negative every single day, even if you're engagement farming for whatever reason. I don't see how you can just carry all that negative energy, not just in life, but like for sports. You're not carrying the trophy at the end of the day. Manchester United pulled off this great upset for the FA Cup, for anybody that knows soccer. I was thrilled. I was not walking around with the trophy. I did not get a medal. I was happy for about 10 minutes, and I was proud that my team won, but that's all that I get. I don't get anything else. I would probably have to pay to get memorabilia to commemorate their victory. So I don't need to be negative about it all the time. I'm not getting anything out of it when they win. So I don't understand the daily negativity, and I don't understand the rush to an absolute judgment about a player after 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 games. It's just I don't understand it. Don't carry that energy. It's okay. It will be okay. Like, those are 2 of my pet peeves. I have another one, but I didn't want to like dominate this question.
I think my number one is when fans tell me or other reporters like what we should and shouldn't be asking, because like they're just different dynamics to asking questions at certain times, or they feel like the questions aren't strong enough. And it's like the Clay Holmes example. I think I saw a lot of fans being like, why didn't he like ask why he didn't stick with Luke Weaver? I know why he didn't stick with Luke Weaver. It's because his closer had a 0.000 ERA. Of course, like I know the answer. So it's like, why do I need to ask that? And it's also like, especially last season when there was so much negativity, it's like fans just like expect like us, because we're basically the conduits between the fans and the players and the organization. So like they can't ask questions, so like we do, but like fans think like we're supposed to like needle them every single day and like try and get a response. It's like I still have to maintain relationships with these people. I have to see them every day. Sometimes like you have to pick your spots. Like if I'm not writing a story about something, I don't like, so a lot of the times I don't feel like it's necessary to like uh burn that clip or burn that question right then, because it's like if I'm not writing it, it's whatever. It's one of 162 games. It'd be different if it was the playoffs and like you know that like the in-game decisions or like that one minor thing could make or break a team in the playoffs. But if it's one of 162, like when I'm asking questions and they might be more challenging, it's like if I'm not writing about it, I'll hold off or let someone else ask it, because there's just no need. Just because some fans are mad on social media doesn't mean I have to be the one who is doing their dirty work, essentially. So that's probably my number one. And I did ask a lot of tough questions last year. I know Boone was not very happy with me at several points of the season, but you know, I felt like I had to ask those questions just because of like how the team was performing. And I was writing basically every day last year how messed up like the team was, like just from a roster construction standpoint, just the decisions that they had made that led them to the season they had. So it's not like I'm afraid to ask tough questions. I'm certainly not, but you also have to pick your spots. So that's why like sometimes questions that fans think like they're must asks like don't get asked, just because all of us in the room asking those questions have to maintain some sort of relationship with the people we're asking. And then number two, this is just solely on Twitter, but like if I'm posting a stat that like can be broken at some point, and people are like, "Why'd you jinx this?" It drives me crazy. It drives me absolutely crazy because I had posted the other day like the Yankees had like some scoreless streak going on, and then they gave up a run. It's like, do you think like the Yankees are not going to give up a run the rest of the season? Do you think they're reading my tweets in the dugout? Do you think it's now in their head? It drives me insane. I hope people are joking when they say that, like tweet those things, but also I don't know. Like they might be serious. Like they might think I'm the actual problem.
Right.
So that drives me absolutely insane because it's like, all right, like they're going to lose games. They're going to give up runs. Not everybody's going to have a good season. Like I even joked when Volpe extended his hitting streak. I said, Volpe can break DiMaggio's record on July 9th. I think that's the date, his hitting streak. And people are like, oh, it's over. But like I was joking with that. Like he's not breaking DiMaggio's hitting streak record.
Right.
But it's just like other stuff. It's like, why are you jinxing this? Or if it's like, if the Yankees are throwing a perfect game tonight, Nestor's perfect game won't happen or not happen because a reporter tweeted out that Nestor has a perfect game.
Right.
Jinxes don't exist.
Right.
They don't.
Yeah.
So those are two things.
I have one. I won't share on the podcast because it'll lead to like a different conversation. But my third one is my total confusion with large segments of the fan base being mad at like the 24th man on the roster and just like holding
but that's
on.
the passion that Yankee fans have, though.
Is it?
I think so. I mean, like you said, like the Yankee fans have a ton of passion. They know the roster inside and out. They know who Michael Tonkin is, when most fans around the league probably have no clue who that is, or Jahmai Jones. Trent Grisham's been a starter before. I'm thinking that's who you're probably talking about. What like the outrage with him?
Yes. I mean, there's like a history though. It's not just like Grisham. Like I remember in 2021, Jay Bruce was that guy, and it was like Jay Bruce played like 4 games for the Yankees, and like every time Glaber threw the ball from shortstop, it was like a 25-foot like lawn dart that he couldn't make a pick on, and everybody was like mad at Jay Bruce, and it was like, did you just look at this throw that Glaber gave him? And it's just like there's always some random guy at the back end of the roster that if he's not hitting 900 out of the gate, then like people just hate him and they like don't give him a shot. Like I remember this is going back a couple years, like with Raul Ibanez. People hated him for like a while, and then he became like a cult hero. I mean, he had a stretch where he was like maybe the greatest Yankee of all time, and like gave us some of these like great moments. But there was like a stretch where he was despised, and it's like, what is the problem here? Like, he's just a role player. It's okay. Like Trent Grisham is a role player that doesn't play. Like Tonkin, every time he comes in now, there's like this deluge of just like mean tweets towards Tonkin. And it's like, he's the mop-up guy that's like holding a spot. It's okay. Like, I know he had that like bad impression. What was it in Milwaukee with the
Yeah.
extra innings game, and that was it. He was done. Like
Yeah.
he's
That was
done. He's never going to recover from that. And I feel bad. Like
it.
he's just like a back end guy that they picked up off of waivers or whatever to fill a spot. It's okay. He's not going to pitch if he's pitching the 8th inning of a major game, that scenario probably won't even exist because something like tragically wrong happened prior to that. So it's like, it's okay. It's all right. Like Trent Grisham's okay. He's fine. Like Tonkin's okay. I don't understand. It's like
Caleb Ferguson
vitriol.
has the ire of the fan base. He is
He
public enemy
earned it
number 1
though.
now.
He's pitched
Yeah,
enough where it's like he's
yeah.
earned it. I mean, this guy's
He
pitching every other day.
Yeah, he hasn't been good for sure.
No,
but
no.
he is public enemy number 1 right now.
He's earned that status. I'm not talking about like Ferguson because I mean,
No, I know who you're talking about.
Yeah,
You're like talking if like Jahmai Jones was playing today, he goes 0 for 4.
Yeah,
then he's be like, why is this guy on the roster? Why is he playing?
Why does he live? Why does he have the audacity to wear the Yankees uniform? Why is he a Major League Baseball player? It's like all these things, and it's like, dude, he has 10 at bats. You know what I mean? Like, it's almost June. It's okay, man. Like they trot out the same lineup every day now. It's all right. It's okay if Trent Grisham plays once every 2 weeks. If he goes over 4, fine.
And also with Grisham, like fans have to remember he was a starter last year, and it's hard going in this role when you don't have any experience doing it. Like he was the Padres starting center fielder. He goes to a team now with the Yankees where he's not playing really at all.
Right.
He's only playing on days where Judge is DHing and Stanton's out. And because Stanton's hitting, like you want him in the lineup often. So it's challenging. Like I remember talking with Aaron Hicks about that last year, where Hicks was a starter. Not saying Hicks is good, but Hicks was a starter, and you go into a bench role where you're playing sporadically. It's hard to like develop any sort of consistency when you're just not playing much. And hitting pitching is probably the hardest thing in sports. And when you're not playing every day and you have no sense of like when you actually might play, it can be very, very challenging and daunting to some players who just don't have the background of coming off the bench and establishing a new routine when you've been a starter your whole career, and then you're thrust into this role where you have no idea of like how to develop any sort of routine. So it's also something to note when those guys do struggle, because a lot of the times, especially on the Yankees with the depth they have, like a lot of the times these guys just haven't done it before.
Right. All right. Well, Ethan, thank you for that great question. So we could go in depth with some fan reactions. And I'm like guilty of stuff too. I have my moments as well. So I'm not like above all of that. It's just those things I try not to engage in. But I will make sure that at some point this season I'll hop in your mentions and ask why you didn't ask Aaron Boone should he be fired or not, or something like crazy like that.
I mean, that happened so much last season. It's like,
I'm sure.
Ask him why he needs to have a job. It's like,
right?
No, I can't ask that question. Sorry,
Aaron. Why are you dead man walking for the next 2 months?
So. It's like, no, I can't ask that question.
Yeah. All right. So we're wrapping it up. Any final words, Chris, from your hotel in Anaheim, California?
No, I'm probably going to have to find some like chain restaurant to eat here in Anaheim. There's nothing here.
Yeah.
There's nothing here. I can't believe the city has a baseball team. There's nothing here.
It's crazy.
It's like Disney. I don't even know why Disney's here. Why is it in Anaheim? It's just random.
Yeah, I don't have an answer for that. I actually was in Anaheim 2 years ago for like a ESPN like media thing. And I stayed in Disneyland, like in their big hotel. And it was like it was cool, but also because I hadn't been to like Disneyland or Disney World in a long time. So it was cool, and like the the magic of Disney and like everything that they sell. Like I thought that was cool, but I was also like, I don't think I would stay here if I didn't have a work commitment. You know what I mean? Like, it's just that's it. That's just all Anaheim is, really.
Well, the Yankees don't even stay in Anaheim. They're staying at the
Yeah,
beach. They stay in Newport Beach. So like
smart.
they aren't even staying in the city.
Yeah, smart, very smart. All right, so we won't take any more shots in Anaheim. Hopefully, the Yankees take care of business against the Angels, and they'll enjoy their time in Newport Beach in between the games. Um, we hope that you enjoyed this episode of the Views from 314 Feet podcast. You can find us on all of your favorite podcast platforms as well as YouTube. The channel is the same name as the pod. And we appreciate you all listening. Please give us a 5-star review. And we will speak to you all next week.